My first question was, if we consider ourselves Hindu and we say that all people are created equal, our animals are created equal, everyone's equal because we all have the same atma and all of that, then why is it that we keep segregating ourselves? We say he's Christian, he's Muslim, he's whatever, he's Brahmin, he's whatever. So my first question is, if we're trying to develop unity within ourselves, shouldn't we stop trying to diversify ourselves and see that we're all Hindu and it doesn't matter whether you're Muslim or Christian or whatever, you're still Hindu? Like, because Hinduism isn't a religion, it's a way of life, so as long as you encompass that way of life, you should be considered Hindu.
Okay, good point. I've written down. Next. Next point.
And if we keep saying that Hinduism is not a religion but a way of life, then it shouldn't matter who we marry, because as long as they live the ways prescribed by the Dharmic religion, then it doesn't matter what religion they are. So inter-religion marriage shouldn't be such a big issue in our community. And finally, if we want a more focused youth, then how can we have that when our parents are pushing our priority towards education? Our parents are saying, get a master's, get a PhD, be productive in this world, and that's great. It's important to be educated in this country, but why don't we have our parents pushing for the same thing in the spiritual aspect as well, in the religion aspect as well? They tell you, oh, it's Diwali, go to the temple. Oh, it's your birthday, go to the temple. But why are they not pushing us to study the literature that we're being given? That's the three questions that I wanted to pose.
I've written those down, and we'll take a few more questions and then we'll consolidate the questions. Yeah? So let's hear Nikhil. Yeah.
Hello. I guess I also don't have many questions, but I think something that I'd like to touch on during this session is how can we make it relevant to our lives on a daily basis? When I remember I had a talk once at one of the HSC events, how the Bhagavad Gita will get you into medical school, and we had about 250 people show up for that event. And as you can imagine, it's actually really funny because it actually had nothing to do with medical school, but simple practices that you can use in daily life, whether you go to medical school, business school, law school, or in general, whether you're not going to school. But the fact that you put medical school in the title attracted a large proportion of people. And that just tells you that there's an interest in anything that can be applied to daily life. And I don't think that we understand. My parents, for example, tell me to meditate and do yoga every day. And they do it. They do pranayama every morning. They watch Swami Ramdev's lectures in the morning, and they do it. But I don't think we realize the impact it has on our lives. We tried for a few days. It doesn't really make a difference, so we kind of wash it away. We don't see the benefits on a long-term basis. So that's my question.
So what I've written down, I'm going to recap. I think they all revolve around the common theme of Hindu identity. And when I'm reading these questions, think about it as issues of Hindu identity. So one of them I wrote is, why are we segregating religions, like I'm a Hindu, he's a Christian, and why this distinctiveness of Hindu identity? That's a question about Hindu identity in a sense. Like, is Hindu identity relevant? Okay, or is there even such a thing as Hindu identity? Second question is another variation of the same thing. If Hinduism is a way of life, okay, it's just a way of life, then what's the issue about intermarriages? That's also an identity issue. It's an issue that why is there an identity which separates the other from us, and so sees intermarriage as a kind of an issue. The third one is also an identity issue. What can we do to sustain Hinduism in the West among the youth? So that too is an identity issue, Hinduism. Because if you separate identity from practices, breathing is not an identity. You don't say, my identity is I breathe. Okay? Breathing anyone can learn, no matter what faiths they are, what identity they are. I mean, you could be in Al-Qaeda sitting in a prison, you can learn breathing. You can. You could be a drug culture person, you could learn breathing. So, if you are merely a collection of practices, like breathing, like asanas, then there is no need for an identity for that. You can, it's like saying, I eat dosa, or I eat pizza. There's no identity about it, it's just a way of life. So that's a very important question. That is Hinduism merely a set of practices. And these practices are unbundled, which means like clip art, you can cut and paste. Like when you download clip art on the computer, you can copy something, paste it here, copy something, paste it there. If Hinduism is a bunch of unrelated, sporadic, clip art-like practices, you can incorporate and pick like an a la carte or buffet. You can pick out what you want and just incorporate it in your life. Then there is no such thing as Hinduism.
A la carte is the Muslim version.
Yeah, okay. So I'm still trying to get this point across. Then the fourth question was, how can we make Hinduism relevant to our lives? Again, are we talking about Hinduism as an identity, or are we talking about Hinduism as a collection of practices? Because if it's a collection of practices with nothing cohesive, no integrity, no need for a separate identity per se that holds these practices together, then those practices you can pick and choose the one you want into any identity. Then you can have a Christian doing pranayama, and of course you can do pranayama, it'll give you the same benefits. So I think the common thread I see in all of these questions is, is there a Hindu identity? What is it if it's just a way of life? And what is the relevance of such an identity? Does it have any benefits today? And then we can ask questions like, how do we protect it and propagate it and so on. So really the core question that you have, seeing all of you, is the nature of Hindu identity. Now I have a lot to say on what is Hindu identity, what is distinct about it, why there is a Hindu identity over and above all the practices. You can have all the practices, this one, that one, that one. But in addition to all that, there is something called Hindu identity which has a certain value, and then we can talk about things like, how then from there you can talk about intermarriages. Only if you have understood what is Hindu identity. Only then can you talk about intermarriages, because inter means A and B, but you need to understand what the heck is A. What is A that is entering with some other religion? Yeah? Now, do you want me to spend 2 or 3 minutes giving you my perspective on identity, or do you want to throw it open and we can hear other people's ideas on Hindu identity, what it is and why it's relevant? If you have people raising hands, I would like people to hear. Otherwise, I have something to say about Hindu identity as well. But anyone on the panel?